So we have more on that breaking story for you. Shayna Hubers has just been convicted of murder in the death of Ryan Poston. This was a retrial for Hubers. The guilty verdict in her first trial was thrown out because one of the jurors did not reveal he was a convicted felon. Ashley Zilka and Tom McKee, I believe, both join us live. What can you tell us to update us?
Well, Kristen, that's right. I'm here with Tom McKee. Tom, you were upstairs when the verdict was read. What was it like up there?
Well, first of all, 6:45, all of a sudden we're all gathered up there, and all of a sudden, boom, here comes the verdict. And they gathered everybody, both sides, the attorneys and the families. And the verdict was read about 7:05, very quiet. Shayna Hubers heard the verdict, and she buried her head into her attorney's arms at that point. She was crying, visibly upset, because the murder conviction means it was an intentional killing, not reckless homicide, not first-degree manslaughter, not second-degree manslaughter.
And it took the jury about 5 hours. That's about the same amount as the first time around?
Almost identical, which is kind of amazing. They got the case at 1:40 this afternoon, had some lunch, picked a four-person, began, and it was not an easy case. They had 10 days of testimony, hundreds of exhibits, but they plowed through it, and they believed the prosecution's claim that it was murder and that it was not anything like self-defense or self-protection. Michelle Snodgrass, Commonwealth Attorney, did not want to comment because we have a sentencing phase starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow. There'll be some witnesses. The jury will make a recommendation to the judge. The judge is the ultimate decider of that. Jay Poston, Ryan's father, said, "Can't talk now, we'll talk tomorrow." He looked a little bit relieved, though. This has been a stress on this family for more than 6 years.
And that's right. And Ryan's family did put out a statement. Hopefully we could read that later to our viewers. But so really the next step is the sentencing.
Next step is the sentencing phase, and then this case will be over. Again, it's taken 6 years. The crime happened in 2012, the first trial 2015. Conviction, 40-year sentence, but as we know, it was overturned because the juror failed to disclose that he had a prior felony conviction. This time, I'm sure, every juror was scrutinized, so we didn't have that. Every juror was pulled after the verdict was read. They had to stand up in court and say, "Yes, that's my verdict. Yes, that's my verdict," because it had to be unanimous. All 12 jurors had to go and say, yes, it was.
And I don't know if you saw this, but did you see any of Shayna's family members or friends up there? What was their mood like?
Shayna, they all left. They all kind of formed a tunnel to protect them. They all left very quickly without saying anything. They didn't say anything the first time. Again, this has been a stress on her parents and anybody who knows her as well, too. You have to take that into consideration.
All right, thanks, Tom. Anything else you could think of? I know you've been there the whole time, the whole trial.
Very difficult, a lot of testimony. Highland Heights Police Department, Kentucky State Police Laboratories, the Poston family, the Hubers family. It's been a monumental effort to bring it to this particular point, and the jurors have made their decision. It's guilty of murder the second time around.
Now, I know you were at the first trial. You were telling me any big differences.
Not really. It could have been the order of witnesses that were called. I think what's going to be interesting, or what was interesting, is there's no way you can get around the statement that Shayna Hubers made, that 2.5 hour rambling statement. You can't get around that statement, what she said during that. "I gave him the nose job he always wanted. I killed him. I did it," kind of laughing sometimes at it. The defense called that just a stream of consciousness. She was nervous. She was just relating off. The prosecution said it was a matter of acting. That's how she did things. She put on an act. When the police weren't in the room, she calmed down. When they were in the room, she did her act. That's what they said all along. They said they can't trust her. She lied throughout, lied to anybody. But she wanted Ryan Poston to be her boyfriend, and she would do anything at all to keep him. As Michelle Snodgrass said, the last thing in her closing arguments was she was going to have Ryan Poston that night as her boyfriend, or he was going to leave in a body bag.
Now, I'm being told we still have a little bit more time. So I was here the day that Shayna testified. It kind of stunned the courtroom that she actually, took the stand. Can you say anything about that?
Well, she took the stand. There were only 4 witnesses for the defense. 2 neighbors of Poston's who said what they heard. A psychologist who talked about her upbringing, alleged sexual abuse, that sort of things. And then Hubers. She was the second witness. Kind of caught us off guard, yes, because in the first trial, she didn't testify per se. She made an unsworn statement during the sentencing phase, which is going to happen tomorrow. But she said basically that she was tossed around by Ryan the night of the shooting, verbally assaulted, her whole family. She was assaulted. Then he threw her across the room, and she found herself sitting on the ground. She looked up. Ryan was holding a gun over her. She said, saying that I could kill you now and nobody would ever know about it. She says she picked up the gun at that particular point and shot him. She fired once, hit him in the head, his face fell to the table, and then she walked around, as they said, and then as he fell to the floor, fired 4 more shots. because he was twitching and she wanted to put him out of his misery. I'm sure the jurors took that language and really
Right.
didn't like to hear that. But we don't know what it is. The jury deliberations are secret, but it's a conviction. Sentencing phase tomorrow.
Should be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. All right, we're going to send it back to you, Kristen.
Thanks, guys. We have one more piece of information that we want to share with you. A statement from the Poston family, and I'm going to read it right off this cell phone. Today, we embrace justice, and yet we do not feel joy. It has been 6 long and heartbreaking years without our beloved Ryan. More at 11.